So when they told you, where were you? And did you collapse in front of their face? Did you go ballistic? What was your immediate reaction upon hearing the news that this generational talent, 6 years younger than the talent that you was bringing in, although Anthony Davis is a big-time player, what was your immediate reaction in the moment when you were first told the news?
I was like, you're asking me, right? This isn't done. And he was like, no, it's done.
Mark Cuban talks about the Luka trade. Check out what he had to say, and then I'll come back with my comments.
The most obvious question you have ever been asked, because we all know the answer. If Mark Cuban is still the owner for the Dallas Mavericks, majority and otherwise, is Luka Doncic in L.A. or is he still in Dallas?
No.
I think he's here, yeah.
Of course.
Could you have ever imagined yourself trading Luka Doncic?
No.
Can you explain why the hell they came to that conclusion?
I don't know.
You still don't know?
I've heard, Nico is, I've heard what Nico said publicly, privately, and they align. And so, Nico felt it was the best decision, and Patrick Dumont agreed with them at the time. And they made that decision. And, that's the way the NBA works.
In other words, what the hell were they thinking? Mark Cuban, he's trying to be cool with it because he still has a little ownership stake left. So he's not going to trash the team while he's still connected. So I get it. Just play this role. Don't know what was going on. Maybe align with their future plans. But if you're the Dallas Mavericks, you don't get rid of Luka Doncic unless he has some type of career-ending injury that you may know about but isn't public, and you're just trying to get rid of him and the team's willing to take a chance on him. Other than that, unless he requests a trade and then you have to go all out, if none of that stuff is going on, you keep Luka. He just invested into a home, doing a lot in the community. He's still shocked about this. He's playing much better. Looks like he got used to LA and they've been rolling ever since, but Luka didn't want to leave Dallas, and I guarantee if Mark Cuban was the owner, wouldn't happen.
Could you educate my audience as to what words were said as to why Luka Doncic was being traded?
Nico decided that, defense wins championships, and he thought that Anthony Davis would be a better anchor for our defense. And look, the truth is between AD, Derek Lively, and Derek Gafford, that's the best big three in the NBA. But Luka Doncic is a generational talent. So, while there's an argument to be made, and I understand where Nico's coming from, it's just not the same decision I would have made.
Of course. And if you wanted to get AD, maybe you try to trade everybody except Luka. Maybe you look into trading Kyrie. Maybe pair him up with Clay and see if we can work on a 3 or 4 team deal to get Anthony Davis. But for Luka to be the reason why you traded for AD, I'm not buying it. Something's going on with that organization. Maybe they didn't want to pay Luka, and I get it. As a business owner, if you don't want to pay someone, a super max contract, 300, 400, 500 million, yeah, you get rid of them because you feel as though maybe you can get other players collectively that can still win a championship. But I'm not getting rid of Luka Doncic.
So when they told you, where were you? And did you collapse in front of their face? Did you go ballistic? What was your immediate reaction upon hearing the news that this generational talent, 6 years younger than the talent that you was bringing in, although Anthony Davis is a big-time player? What was your immediate reaction in the moment when you were first told the news?
I was like, you're asking me, right? This isn't done. And he was like, no, it's done. And I was like, okay, nothing more to talk about. I wouldn't have done this, and thanks for giving me the call.
Who did you say that to? Who called you?
Nico.
Wow. One of the things that was reported, Mark Cuban, is that throughout his years, as much of a generational talent as we all know Luka to be, his dad spoke out in the immediate aftermath of the trade because of the cynicism that was thrown in Luka's direction, doing his own thing, marching to the beat of his own drum, controlling his circle to some degree, strength and conditioning, etc., being in shape, all of these different things. Was it fair criticism? Was it exaggerated? Was he being maligned unnecessarily in your eyes?
Yeah, going back to Mark Cuban reaction, he was like, did you make the trade already? Can we talk about this? Nico was like, nah, bro, we already got rid of him. So that's letting you know it was definitely a power struggle. Luka, he's on his own time, and the Mavs, they're on a different type of timing. And I get getting an AD, great talent, but Look what happened in AD's first game. He got injured and missed a handful of games. Luka, he started off, kind of rocky at first, but he gained his footing. He figured it out. So, of course, right now it looks like the Lakers won this trade for the now and for the future. I thought the Mavs are going to win this trade in the now, but by Kyrie going down, by AD going down, you got an aging Klay Thompson. A lot of their bigs, they were injured as well. This whole experiment for this season doesn't look like it's going to work out. AD, he's back. Hopefully he stays healthy and maybe the Mavs find a way in the playoffs, but it's just an unfortunate situation. I know Mark Cuban, he's pissed off right now, but he's keeping it cool.
I mean, look, everybody saw him. It wasn't like he was ripped and had a six-pack. But what I think what the biggest mistake was in trying to understand Luka is he's from the Balkans, right? He's Slovenian, and you look at Jokic, who's Serbian, and you look at Serbian players in general. They're just a different mindset, right?
Different
they look at the game different. They look at life differently. They look at they're emotionally. The guys that I've gotten to know from that region of the world are different. And I think that was what was not considered as fully as it should have been. That you've got to understand what people are like, what their backgrounds are like, who they are personally, what their families are like, how they interact with other people. And from that part of the world, in my experiences, Luka was just, other than the basketball talent, he was just like every other guy. And, and I think that was one of the reasons he loves to play with the Slovenian team. He relates so well to all the other players from that part of the world. And, over the summers, that's who he's hanging out with. That's who he is. And so I don't think that we truly took the time to understand that. And I think that really led to this decision, and that really underpinned this decision, that lack of attention to that issue. And I think that's here we are.
Yeah, when you're not aligned, when you get new management or new ownership, when one regime leaves, or in Mark Cuban's case, when you sell majority ownership, things are going to change. If they're not rocking with Luka before the transfer of power, they're definitely not going to rock with them after the transfer of power. So you tie all that in together, them not fully understanding Luka, that probably had a lot to do with it. But still, I don't care if we don't understand each other. We're going to get to know each other, and you're going to be a part of this franchise for the remainder of your career. So get used to each other and try to figure out how you can reel Luka back in. But I guess they didn't want to do that, and they decided to go in a different direction.
Mark, educate us when you say he was a bit different. Not so much about him, but about those players from Europe compared to American players, and you say he's a bit different. Folks needed to understand that kind of thing. What are the kind of things that you noticed about him and about players from overseas, from Europe, et cetera, and how different they are?
Not even overseas, the Balkan players,
the
right?
Balkan players. How are they different?
If you've never seen a game in Serbia,
okay,
they're going, like Jokic has said before. Jokic said, guys are yelling at me. No, dude, have you ever seen a game in Serbia? And you watch them, that's where you see the videos of the entire stadium bouncing up and down. Right. And, look at Jokic's brothers. They're aggressive, right? They don't put up with anything.
Different energy.
When we had Boban was a big teddy bear, but he could be aggressive too on the court. And so just that mindset that when you're on the court, your intensity is at a different level, and you see that with Jokic, you see that with Luka, you see that with other players, and that historically has been who they are. And you have to understand where people are from in the world. That culture, the culture you grow up in makes a difference into who you are as an athlete, as a professional in any sport, and as a business person for that matter.
I guess that's why Luka's a perfect fit for the Lakers, more of an international fan base. They're going to make sure they understand Luka. They're willing to take that chance. And of course, if you had a chance to get Luka over AD, you got your championship with AD. Mission accomplished, but now you have a chance to move on to Luka. Great move by the Lakers. It looks like the relationship between Rob Pelinka and Nico Harrison worked itself out to where they were able to get a swap for those two players. So the Lakers, they won this trade, and the Dallas Mavericks, they'll be kicking themselves in the near future, realizing that Luka's going to help the Lakers win a championship.
Is that good for the NBA in this day and age? Is it what's needed?
Yes, it's great, right? Because the beauty of the NBA is that we accept all cultures from around the world, because they're all different, and that's what makes us unique, in that we're very, very accepting no matter where you are from. And I think it's amazing, And, when you see Luka, like when I went to LA with my son, when we played there against him for the first time,
Right.
and I told him I was going to boo him when he was on the free throw line. So I did. And I was smiling and laughing. And he was, he got really intense because he's always really intense on the court. Always. You see his response to the referees. You see his responses to anybody. He is intense. And while, Joker may not be as purely emotional, and I don't get to see as many of his games, the guy is intense, but when the game is over and he goes back home, he's more interested in harness racing, which, by the way, I grew up watching my entire life, so I don't blame him. But, they go back and they live their lives. It's just different. And you've got to accept those differences in players from that part of the world. And I think that was part of our mistake.
Well, listen, the way you describe Luka and players from that part of the world, it sounds a lot like Mark Cuban, and I don't recall you being born in the Balkans. I mean, your intensity level,
but let me just tell you,
But go ahead.
Let me just tell you, one grandparent's from Lithuania.
Okay.
Multiple from Ukraine.
Okay.
One, so I got that in my blood, Stephen A.
I got you. Absolutely.
But yeah, man, unfortunate trade. I feel bad for the Dallas Mavericks fans. They had something going with Luka, had a great long career with Dirk Nowitzki, 20 plus years. The fan base was happy, won a championship, and made it to 2 NBA finals. With Luka, had an opportunity to win versus the Boston Celtics, but they were outmatched. Wasn't going to happen. Thought they were going to be able to run it back. Luka was injured early on and wasn't able to gain his footing early on in the season. And I thought they were going to try to move forward and go on another playoff run. But looks like management and ownership had a different tune in mind. And now Luka's on the Lakers. I think they have an opportunity to win a championship, play great, destroy the OKC Thunder. So they're looking like contenders. And if you're the Dallas Mavericks, you're really thinking right now, should we have done this? Should we have waited maybe until the summertime? Maybe waited until the trade deadline in 2026. Really see what you can do with Luka. See if you can maybe get him in shape or something. Really talk with him, get to know him. But when there's an ownership change, a majority ownership change, things like this happen all the time in sports, corporate companies, everything. So, hey, it is what it is, man. Luka's on the Lakers, AD's on the Mavericks, and we'll see what happens moving forward with both of these franchises.